So bad.
Alright, y'all don't quiet down. Let's do a coach whistle. Yeah, the party started last night. This is a tough group to corral into a room. My name is Kristen Hughes. I'm the Director of Athletics here at Smith College, and on behalf of the college and everyone in our department, we really want to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We are very excited about the induction ceremony tonight and the class of 2017. Smith College has a rich tradition of athletic excellence, and we are so happy to be here tonight recognizing how special it is to be a pioneer. When you're an athlete, especially a talented one, you come to realize very quickly that regardless of your sport, your success is made up of many moments. It's conditioning, it's practices, it's the games, it's the pregame talks, the team meals, the bus rides home. It's a tug on your jersey, it's a coach's voice in your ear, and it's a look in your teammate's eye. It's the wins and the losses, the pride and the friendship. It's an attitude, and it's the program. And it's people that give life and meaning to all of it. And I feel fortunate to have so many of these people here with us tonight celebrating. I'd like to give a warm welcome to all of our past Hall of Fame inductees who are with us tonight. Please stand when I call your name. From the inaugural induction class of 2012, the head coach of the 1988 volleyball team, our own Bonnie May. From the class of 62, Aggie Curtis. And from the class of 86, Paula Prinz. From the 2014 Hall of Fame class, head coach of the 2004 crew, varsity 8, Karen Klinger. From the class of 93, Phoebe Jacob Moore. And the graduate class of 51, Carol Newhoff. And from the class of 83, C.B. Sandsbor. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for all of their time and effort in putting together this year's class. I will read everyone who contributed to these decisions. Associate Athletic Director Bonnie May, Sports Information Director Ciara Lawrence, ESS Lecturer and former Athletic Director Lynn Oberbillig, Head Basketball Coach Lynn Hersey, Head Tennis Coach Chris Davis, Associate Vice President for College Relations Sam Asinter, Executive Assistant to Alumni Relations, Jad Davis, Faculty Athletic Representative and Professor of Chemistry, Kate Queenie, ESS Professor Emeritus and 2014 Hall of Famer, Carol Newhoff, 2012 Hall of Famer, Class of 62 alum, Aggie Curtis, Class of 89 alum and former track and field athlete, Wendy Luter, Class of 98 alum and former soccer and softball athlete, Alexis Cordiano, and Class of 2013 alum, former basketball, track and field athlete, Amanda Zakowski. Thank you. All right, hang in there. It's all about the pregame announcements. We got a lot. We have some former members of the athletic department who are here with us tonight as well, and they have certainly given us some very big shoes to fill. Former squash and field hockey coach Carol Newhoff. Former field hockey and lacrosse coach Jackie Bly. Former crew coach Kathy Keeler. Former administrative assistant to the athletic department Linda Rainville. Former crew coach Karen Klinger. Former swimming and diving coach Kim Beerboard. We also have some friends from the Exercise and Sports Studies Department here with us. Good partnership with that group. I want to thank ESS lecturer Erica Tibbetts for being here with us tonight. And Department Chair Barbara Curtis. I know many of our Hall of Famers tonight spent some time with our student athletes and our teams, and we really appreciate the time that you gave them. Those moments, those visits are really powerful. And I hope that not only did you get a chance to see what great student athletes we have, but we also have just some fantastic coaches. And many of them, actually all of them, are with us tonight. It's important for me to introduce you to them. So please stand, coaches. Head track and field coach Carla Coffey. Head softball coach Emily Lopez. Head cross-country coach Ellen O'Neill. Head strength and conditioning coach Jake Turner. Head tennis coach Chris Davis. Head basketball coach Lynn Hersey. Assistant basketball coach Jen McCauley. Head soccer coach Mark Platts. They almost pulled off a big win today over Babson. Good effort though. Head rowing coach Claire Doyle. Head lacrosse coach Katie Moore. Head swimming coach Zach Kundle. Interim head tennis coach Mike Calendo. Outdoor programs coordinator Stephanie Frazee. And our co-head athletic trainers Deb Coutu and Kelly Steele. There's a few other people in our department who honestly did an absolute lion's share of the work in getting this event together, whether it was all the details about tonight, setting up this room, to reaching out to inductees and getting everything planned, and they really deserve a very special thank you, and probably about a month off. But they're not going to get the month, so help me with the thank you. Sports Information Director Ciara Lawrence. Associate Athletic Director Bonnie May. Assistant Athletic Director Teresa Collins. And Business Manager Donna Gingras. I also want to give a thank you to Emma Karim-Shetty, who put together the video. I messed it up, didn't I? And we're going to say goodnight. Thank you, Emma. I would also like to welcome a former athlete and ESS grad, as well as a current Board of Trustees member, Camille O'Brien. And finally, I would like to give a very warm thank you to Donna Lisker, Vice President for Campus Life. She's a constant support to us in athletics. I hope she knows how much we appreciate her vision and her leadership, and I would like to invite Dean Lisker to say a few words.
Thank you. It's always dangerous to stand between a crowd of athletes and dinner, so I'm going to try to be short. So good evening. On behalf of President McCartney, who regrets that she could not be here, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Smith College Pioneers Hall of Fame dinner. This is a very special event for Smith, as we recognize our third class of inductees and the long and rich tradition of women's athletics at Smith. Given that most women lucky enough to receive college educations in the 19th century and the first 2/3 of the 20th century went to women's colleges, it's certainly no exaggeration to say that schools such as Smith played an outsized role in the development and growth of women's athletics. So tonight we'll be celebrating some trailblazers, each with an amazing story that you'll see more of. Millicent Kingsbury Winston, 49, set a national masters record in the deadlift of 157.5 pounds in her early 80s and has been inducted into the World Association of Benchers and Deadlifters Hall of Fame. That's a Hall of Fame worth being in. Ann Lee Delano, a highly accomplished athlete in field hockey and lacrosse, shared her expertise as a beloved physical education instructor at Smith in the 1950s and 60s. Ann Newell Robertson, 61, was a three-sport captain at Smith, an All-American and a member of the U.S. women's lacrosse team from 1960 to 64. Dr. Julia Chase Brand, class of 64, whose defiance of the AAU in running a 5-mile race created opportunities for women to run cross-country nationwide, not just at Smith, but nationwide, was also the oldest person to receive a medical degree from Albert Einstein College of Medicine. I'm starting to feel like a real underachiever, I don't know about you. Lisa Black, class of 81, was a 4-sport athlete at Smith. I didn't know that was possible. In field hockey, lacrosse, squash, and crew, and she began squash and crew both as a novice. Ann Martin, class of 83, a champion swimmer until she discovered her passion for rowing, won at Eastern Sprints as a Smithie, competed and won at the World Championships as a lightweight rower, and then, oh by the way, qualified and competed in the Olympics as a heavyweight rower. We also have here the 1983 field hockey team, the Mighty Smith Unicorns. I'm sorry we ditched that name, but you know. She won the Northeast Intercollegiate, they won the Northeast Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Tournament and were nationally ranked as high as number 7. They set records for the most goals in a season and the most consecutive wins. We're also honoring Kanta Morali, class of 99, who absolutely dominated New England tennis. She won the NUMAC Rookie of the Year, she was named an All-American, and she received the East Region Arthur Ashe Sportsmanship Award. She also joined the squash team and quickly became the #1 player and captain. And last but not least, we'll be honoring Pap Sorenson, class of 06, who was 2005 NUMAC Athlete of the Year and led the Smith Pioneers, they were no longer the Unicorns by that point, to the NUMAC volleyball title. She was a 2-time All-American and she still holds the Smith record for both kills and digs. Still. So I'm almost embarrassed to say it because I don't belong in this august company, but I was myself a former student athlete. I rode at Williams in the mid-1980s. I'm sorry. Sorry. I seem to remember losing to Smith quite a lot. Probably lost directly to Karen Klinger. So I was at Williams barely a decade after both coeducation and the passage of Title IX changed Williams and other formerly all-male schools irrevocably for the better. I would never have called myself an athlete in high school, but I started at Williams because they had a PE requirement, no joke, and I thought somehow rowing would be an easy way to fulfill the PE requirement. And 4 years later, I graduated as captain of the team, and 30 years later, I'm still rowing, albeit a lot more slowly. And I think for me, as for many of you, my athletic experience was without question the most transformative part of college for me. Not that the academics weren't good, they were, but athletics really was what made the difference for me. So one of the many things that attracted me to Smith was the chance to work with athletics. As a Division III athlete, I know and I respect the power of that experience. Our student athletes, some of whom are here tonight, are physically and mentally strong. They excel in the classroom, they develop leadership skills and friendships, as you all know, that will serve them far beyond their time at Smith. And I include in this not only the varsity athletes, but also those in the club sports, the recreation programs, the outdoor programs. In my first years, I occasionally went to a 7 a.m. boot camp class as part of the Get Fit Smith program, which is our free program for any student who wants to come. I have so much respect for any college student not being forced by a coach to get herself out of bed for a 7 a.m. class in order to do push-ups and burpees and wall sits and all of those good things. So those students too are learning balance and wellness, and they'll carry it with them for the rest of their lives. Some of you saw today that we've spent the past 3 years investing strategically in Smith athletics, and we're starting to see the payoff, both in our competitiveness and in our facilities. We have a brand new softball field that has dugouts with heat and electricity, right? Although I learned tonight that we only have heat in the home dugout, Kristen. I have to say I didn't know that, but you know. We rebuilt our track this year. We wired all of our fields because parents want to be able to have every event streamed so they can watch their daughters compete. With your help, I hope eventually we'll do some good work to Ainsworth and bring that along, but you know, we're pretty happy with our outdoor spaces and we'll work on indoor next. We owe a great deal to our outstanding athletic director, Kristen Hughes, as well as Lynn Overbillig, her distinguished predecessor, and I'm sure before that too. Those are the 2 ADs I worked with. So we're glad you're here tonight. We love events like this that bring you back to campus, and we look forward to working with all of you to make our athletic program one of the best in the country. I thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful time.
So I could pretend that we invited a few students to be with us tonight because I wanted them to be in the room with all of you and be around you. And while that's all very true, to be very honest, I really want all of you to meet our great student athletes because they are really special people and certainly probably the most favorite part of my job. So first up, I have asked Tyler Feeney, who is a member of our softball team, who, by the way, won their fall ball game today, 7-4. Tyler is also the president of our Student Athlete Advisory Committee and just all-around great person. So, Tyler.
I'm a little taller, sorry, Kristen. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tyler Feeney, and I'm going to be a graduate of the class of 2019. As Kristen just kindly introduced me, I am currently the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee and one of the captains of the Smith softball team. Early in September, I was on a panel run by the athletic department with a few of my fellow athletes. We were answering questions for incoming first-year athletes on what it is like to be a Smith athlete. We were honest and fair, talking about how it can be difficult to balance school, athletics, and all your extracurricular activities. We were answering questions along the lines of, what is a transition like, and how do you handle conflicts with class and athletics? Most of them were, pardon my pun, softball questions. But some of them required a little more thought. The last question Bonnie asked to the panel was, knowing what you now know, if you could change one thing about your first year at Smith, what would it be? Would you do anything differently? My response, and this is a paraphrased version of the spiel I gave, is that I wish I had bought into Smith athletics earlier. Obviously, I do not mean monetarily. Smith waits until you have a degree to ask for money, as we all know. What I mean is I wish that I had fully devoted myself to the Smith athletic community earlier. In the past year, between being a part of SAC, being on athletics, and working for both CR and Jake, I've come into contact with virtually all aspects of the Smith athletic community. My appreciation for all that this program has to offer has grown exponentially. The friendships that I have made and the growth that I have experienced as a student have created a rich and deep foundation of appreciation and dedication. I will surely carry these sentiments with me for a lifetime. But back to today. Smith athletics has made me a better student. It has made me a better teammate. It has made me a better leader. and it has also made me a better person. And at the end of the day, being a better person is a whole ballgame. Congratulations to the Hall of Fame inductees. I'm honored to be among you tonight, and thank you for paving the way for Smith Athletics.
Thank you, Tyler. Our next speaker is a member of the basketball team. They kick off their season with an early morning practice, I believe tomorrow morning. Right, Coach Hersey? Get them going. She is the president of the Smith College Inclusion and Diversity Committee, which was established last year and is really doing some great and very important work on the campus through athletics. And so please help me welcome Kennedy Guest-Pritchett.
First, I'd like to say it's a tremendous honor to speak in front of all of you tonight, and I really like to thank Kristen for the opportunity to do so. As Kristen said, my name is Kennedy Guest-Pritchett. I'm a junior from Atlanta, Georgia, and I play on the basketball team. And let's be honest, when I first had this opportunity presented to me, I was a little nervous, and I had a little trouble coming up with what exactly I would say to you guys, because topics of diversity and inclusivity and inclusion and equity, those are all things that I wish I could just snap my fingers and it could be a magical place, but I know it's something that takes nitty-gritty, tough, and hard conversations to happen in any community. So to start, Smith College is an amazing place to be. I think we all agree on that. But Smith Athletics, I don't think everybody knows how much of an amazing experience that is to have. I wish everyone could have the beauty of Smith Athletics because it fosters a place where you can have relationships with coaches and athletes and teammates that you may not get if you aren't a part of that umbrella. Smith College strives to engage every student to be a global citizen and a leader. And as Smith athletes, we have an immense privilege because we have a community that will stand behind us, not only as athletes, but also individuals. With that, we have platforms to be positive, like globally role-changing people, and we need to find a gap between that social identity and athletics. A lot of times, it may seem like our identities are hidden by the numbers on our chests and the blue and gold uniforms that we have, but that's not the case. We're all individuals. I remember my mom always tells me, too much is given, much is expected. So when students found a call to come together and bridge that gap, I only knew it was my place to help as much as I can. I am the chair of Smith College Sports Inclusivity and Diversity Committee, and I feel like that is my job to help facilitate an engaging and inclusive and equitable community as much as I possibly can. As a fairly new committee, we've put together events that we think that people really want to go to and also learn from. So for example, we threw a pajama party last semester. And I know that may not seem like it has anything to do with inclusivity and diversity, but we made it a place where people felt safe by coming in their pajamas, their best twisted pajamas. Max and Carla had a great outfit. But it was open to the whole athletic community, and students submitted anonymous letters about their experiences here at Smith. After that, people got to engage with other teams that we may not have been engaging with before and talk about those shared experiences and maybe possible strategies to solve some of the problems that may have occurred in the letters. Getting to know people beyond their jump shot, their hat tricks, beyond their home runs and their personal PR is important because we're all individuals with backgrounds, and I think that what makes Smith different. We have unique identities, and we're all people. So I'm glad ACID has a place at Smith Athletics, and it's its home base to explore that identity. Finally, to the inductees tonight, as the chair, I would like to extend my thanks, my gratitude, and congratulations for building a community for athletes and ACID to thrive. I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you.
I mean, we have 250 more running around on campus, and they are just great students, great athletes, and they really make you want to come to work every day and work hard. So thank you, both of you, for being with us tonight. All right, we get to eat dinner. All right, so let's have some dinner. Everyone get their food, and then we're going to start the induction shortly thereafter. Enjoy.
By the time he was 14, I ate before I came. Right in the head, you know?
Can I get you something?
I'm okay right now. Thank you, though. I appreciate that.
Not getting up again for it.
Yeah, no, that's alright. I won't need it.
I'm Stephanie, by the way.
I ate before. I'm Caroline. Nice to meet you. I play for Coach Moore. She hates me, but it's alright.
That's
I would have already eaten it all.
pleasure to kick off the inductions for the class of 2017 with a video that shows what an amazing and talented group of people we are honoring here tonight. I would direct your attention to the back of the room. In 1953, the Korean War ended. The polio vaccine was developed. Color television sets went on sale for the first time. And Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay completed the first successful ascent to the summit of Mount Everest. But they weren't the only ones accomplishing remarkable feats. Take a look.
Prominent figure in the history of collegiate and international women's field hockey and lacrosse. Delano was an All-American athlete in both field hockey and lacrosse during her time at Northeastern University.
She was so well skilled at her coordination. It was something to be copied. She was this beautiful, this performer of par excellence.
Delano was the captain of the United States National Field Hockey and Lacrosse teams, the captain of the U.S. Touring Field Hockey team in 1948, and the captain of the U.S. Touring Volleyball team in 1951.
She could be the captain of the team, and she could be a follower on the team. She would lead, but if someone else was in charge of something, she was their support system.
She was the vice president of the United States Field Hockey Association and the United States Women's Lacrosse Association.
I don't think it was a student who had a classroom that didn't just adore her.
Delano began her time at Smith in 1953, teaching field hockey, basketball, lacrosse, squash, tennis, body mechanics, and fundamental movement. From 1969 to 1980, in 1974, Delano was one of the first inductees to Northeastern's Hall of Fame.
present our first inductee of the evening is Carol Newhoff. Carol, would you like to come up?
It's just pre-1997, I would be introducing my teacher, mentor, teammate, colleague, and friend. Obviously, Anne Delano influenced many parts of my personal and professional life. She had the highest standards in everything she did, in her teaching, her personal life, and in competition on the field. I recall an incident in a national field hockey tournament where we were the fullbacks, we were teammates. A player on the other team deliberately kicked the ball into the goal. Because of the melee in front of the goal, the umpire didn't see this. But we expected the player to raise her hand. It didn't happen. This was a shock to both of us. I'll never forget the expression on Anne's face. I don't think either of us ever spoke to this person again. Anne was an inspiring teacher to students of all levels of ability. They gave their very best because Ms. Delano made each one feel so special. Didn't make any difference if they were good or if they were super. My friend Aggie Curtis will tell you about her accomplishments, but there are two special things I want to mention. She was well skilled in field hockey and lacrosse, tennis and squash. She made it all look so easy. And she had a special grace as she did these things. She's the only field hockey player I have ever seen who was graceful on the field. The other thing you should know about Anne is that, to my knowledge, she's the only person who taught in the physical education departments of 3 of the 7 sisters, Smith, Wellesley, and Brynmawr. Not only did she teach in each of these colleges, but she really made her mark on campus. And now Aggie will tell you the rest of the story.
In 1949, the average cost of a new house was $7,000. Gas cost 17 cents a gallon, and the first Polaroid camera was sold for $89. But there was a Smithy from the class of 49 who would be putting up much bigger lifetime numbers. Check out the video.
Winston made art and sang in the chamber choir during her time at Smith. She is an avid embroiderer and loves calligraphy. Kingsbury Winston began weightlifting in the 1990s. A powerhouse in her 70s, Kingsbury Winston began dominating the Masters division, setting a total of 27 state, national, and world records in 2 different weight classes and 3 separate age divisions. In 2010, Ellison completed a 157.5-pound deadlift, setting a state record in Oregon and the national record for the women's Masters division ages 80 to 84. In 2011, Kingsbury Winston was inducted into the World Association of Benchers and Deadlifters Hall of Fame. Kingsbury Winston also holds a number of state and regional titles in the Masters division, long jump, shot put, and 100-meter dash.
You have a body. Use it. Use them when you can.
We will present our next inductee. Please welcome Aggie Curtis.
Well, you see, she was in the class of 49 while she was at Smith. She played field hockey and tennis like a lot of other Smith undergraduates. And she did play tennis all her life. But when she was in her 60s, her husband started to go to the gym to fix a back injury. He just wanted to get stronger. And so she decided to keep him company. It wasn't long before the trainers in the gym encouraged the Winstons to go into this competition. In one article, her husband was being interviewed for his world record and said, well, if you think I'm doing something, you ought to see my super jock wife. And indeed she was. So her first world record was in 2002, single lift deadlift. She lifted 143 pounds. She was in the weight class 132, which just happens to be my weight class. And she was also in the Masters Women 75 to 79, which is my class right now. So let me show you. Some of you may not know what the deadlift is. Deadlift is when you have something on the ground here, and you go up and you push it up over your head. Hold it in there. This. Well, what I was going to say is that you have to picture somebody like me in my weight class, my age group, and if lifting somebody like me, if I were to play dead, lying on the ground and stuck stones in my pockets, she would be lifting me up like that. I mean, it was amazing. Anyway, she does have 14 world records. I'm not going to read those all, but and she was inducted into the Weightlifters Hall of Fame, as you just saw. You're taking all of my speech here, but she did do more than weightlift. She competed in the Oregon State Games, setting state records in the 100 and the 2-meter runs, the discus, the long jump, the hurdles. She achieved All-American standard in 4 events, the long jump, the 12 and 25-pound weight throw, and the shot put. She won 8 out of the 14 world championships that she attended. She is still living in Oregon, and unfortunately she cannot travel. But 2 of her daughters, one of whom is standing here, one of whom is sitting. Oh, she's here, good. I can see you, so I thought, okay. And they will be here to receive the plaque.
Patricia Eisenberg. I'm from Idaho. It's nice. My mom started weightlifting in her 60s. But up until then, she was active in skiing, running, and tennis. We kids learned the importance of lifelong fitness from her. I'm an ice skater, I teach ice skating, I tap dance, I perform, and I run and I ski. So I do a lot of different things, and that's because of my parents. My mom doesn't remember any of her world record lifts. She doesn't remember her All-American long jumps or her All-American shot puts. In fact, she barely remembers me. However, she does remember how much she loved Smith. My parents moved into an assisted care facility in 2008. My dad needed to use a walker from a broken hip, and my mom wasn't making any new memories. Yet, despite their handicaps, they kept lifting. 3 times a week, they worked out with their trainer at the Multnomah Club. Their Nigerian driver brought them down to the club in downtown Portland and back to assisted care every time. 3 years later, I accompanied my mom and dad to their very last World Championships in Reno in 2011. My dad was now in a wheelchair, and my mom needed to be accompanied everywhere so she wouldn't get lost in the vast hotel complex. Right after setting her last world record in the deadlift, other athletes would come up to her in the ballroom and congratulate her. 1 minute later, and she would say, "What for?" with a smile. Mom doesn't remember any of her athletic exploits, but we remember. We will always remember. I look forward to telling Mom all about this wonderful weekend when I get back. Thank you very much to Smith College for this tremendous honor.
I'll just add that, just a funny anecdote. I'm actually named for her. Melis' name's Winston. So if you Google her name, you'll get a few citations from me, but you'll get pages and pages and pages of citations. So people who try to Google me, they're going, "What? You dead?" So the funniest story is when they moved to the assisted living facility. My dad was pretty infirm, but she was still pretty strong. They had in the doorways chimes that if you went through and they would trigger something. But they had never come across someone like my mom at age 85. So it chimed. Nobody really did anything. They figured that she might have gone 1 room, maybe 2 rooms. Well, they went to look for her. They couldn't find her. She had gotten out of the house, down the street, and had only stopped 5 blocks away when the street was entering a highway. And she sat down because she knew somehow that wasn't a good thing. So after that, they put the sheriff actually had a special GPS for her, so they always knew where she was. But she was that kind of, she was just an inspiration for her entire life, all the way, even now. The video that you saw today, I took just a couple of months ago, and she still loved Smith and loved that girls go out for sports and sports make her body feel good. She kept saying that. So, anyway, she's an inspiration. We're very blessed to be here. Thank you so much.
In 1964, Beatlemania was in full swing. The Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, and the Supremes hit the music scene as well. It cost $1.25 to go to a movie, and a postage stamp was 5 cents. And Dr. Martin Luther King received the Nobel Peace Prize. But he wasn't the only one who was fighting issues of discrimination. Please check out the video.
1961, Smith sophomore Julia Chase challenged the amateur athletic union's restrictions on women in running by competing in the 5-mile Manchester Road Race in Manchester, Connecticut. The AAU threatened to ban her from all future competition, but Chase persisted and ran the race in spite of them. 2 months after her race, the AAU sanctioned women's cross country for the first time in the United States. Chase Brand ran at the national level, tried out for 2 Olympic teams, and set multiple New England records. After Smith, she earned her PhD, published articles in animal behavior, human psychological development, and taught at Barnard. Julia Chase Brand was named the Hero of Running by Runner's World in 2004.
Here to present is our head cross-country coach, Ellen O'Neill.
It is my pleasure to introduce Julia Chase Brand, class of '64, for induction to the Smith College Athletics Hall of Fame. In 1928, 15 years before Julia entered this world, women were first able to compete in the Olympics in track and field. However, they were only allowed to compete in 5 events, one of them the very controversial 800-meter run. It was widely thought that this great distance of a half mile would either ruin the reproductive health of women or make them too muscular and unfeminine. After a world record was set by a German woman in this inaugural event, many of the competitors, including the winner, were said, according to the London Times, to be seen lying in the grass at the side of the track after the race. The New York Times reported that at least 6 of the 9 runners were completely exhausted, and several had to be carried off the track. Much to the delight of the Amateur Athletic Federation, the 800 was removed from subsequent Olympic Games, and it wasn't until 1960 when it was reinserted into the competition. As a side note, in 2015, Julia wrote an article proving this was a hoax. After reviewing the film footage from that ill-fated race of the 1928 Olympics, Julia observes that only 1 runner fell and was quickly picked up by an official. And the pictures that accompanied the articles by both the London Times and the New York Times were bogus as well. The headshots were actually finish line photos of the women in the 100-meter heats. During that same year, the half-mile distance was reinstated as an Olympic event. Julia was winning the New England Championships in that same distance, running as a resident of Rhode Island because her home state of Connecticut prohibited women from participating. That fall, as a Smith first year, she showed up at the famed Manchester, Connecticut Thanksgiving Day road race and was denied entry. A year later, in 1961, she filled out an official form to enter the race, and the media went wild. One headline suggested she just wants to chase boys. Others claimed that perhaps her uterus would fall out. So on November 23rd, Julia attempted to start the race with the men, but was adamantly rejected. Her coach suggested that she start a block behind the men, and despite the massive objections and even threats, she joined the race and proudly crossed the finish line. To many running experts, this race is considered to be the defining moment in the evolution of women's distance running in the United States. Julia paved the way for the likes of Katherine Switzer, who 6 years later was the first woman to officially enter the Boston Marathon under the name K.V. Switzer. You may recall seeing photos of her with an infuriated official who's trying to pull off her race number. Katherine runs and finishes the Boston Marathon, thanks to the inspiration of Julia. Julia continues to inspire others. As noted earlier here, 35 years after her heroic Thanksgiving Day race, Julia, already an accomplished biologist, became the oldest graduate of the Albert Einstein School of Medicine at Yeshiva University in the Bronx. And in case you're wondering if Julia has thought about taking it easy in her older years, you can put that thought to rest. Just take a look at her purple cast. Julia? Yeah. Julia sustained a stress fracture while out on a run with former world-class runner Patty Catalano, who is 15 years her junior in a 2:27 Boston Marathon. Clearly, Julia has no intention of slowing down. Please welcome Julia Spring.
I was very lucky that I was at Smith. I loved to run, I always run, and then suddenly ran into this stone wall of the legal prohibition for women doing anything more than 220 yards because, of course, your ovaries fell out. And as the head of the women's AAU said to me, we don't let women run more than that because it makes them too muscular and they have trouble in childbirth. She also said to me, face to face, you know, Julia, you see Grace Butcher, the national champion. She used to be pretty before she tried to run distance. Don't do it, Julia. That's the head of the women's AAU. That's what we're up against. Anyway, Smith had my back. They didn't have any running program. They never had a crazy distance runner. But they had my back. I came in and had a kind of fragile first year with my father dying, and I was on scholarship. Smith stood behind me. They never, ever... I got a D. First time in German. And I got a C from Miss Delano in phys ed. 2 months after the Olympic trials. That's okay. But the head of the scholarship office, Miss Menzel, I went to her, and my father was dying in an insane asylum, and I was the first time that I had not been taking care of my family. And so I was, now I know, I was depressed. But I couldn't understand lectures, I couldn't understand what I read. So I went to the scholarship office and I told her, and she got me a guidance person. The English people noticed that my writing was a little tight, and that had been my strong point. They took me aside and worked with me. Nobody ever threatened me. Nobody ever did anything other than be supportive. When I decided to leave Smith and train for 64 Olympic trials in California, nobody tried to talk me out of it. They backed me up. They wrote me letters. My dean wrote me letters while I was in California running 80 miles a week. And when I asked to come back, no questions asked, I got my scholarship back. So Smith really had our backs, very much. Very grateful.
Only a true athlete comes up here with a cast and no crutches. In 1961, the Peace Corps was established by John F. Kennedy. Construction of the Berlin Wall began. Pampers were introduced as the first disposable diaper, and Raggedy Ann and Andy were the #1 toy. But there were many other firsts happening right here on our campus. Take a look.
All-American athlete playing first team in field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse, and serving as a captain in all 3 sports. She was awarded the S Pin, an honor given by the Physical Education Department for high contributions to sports at Smith, as well as the Nickerson Cup for basketball.
She She was just one of those delightful people to have in your class. Always a smile, very well skilled in field hockey and obviously lacrosse. She was a very, very good student and just had a beaming personality.
Newell Robertson was a member of the United States women's lacrosse team from 1960 to 1964. In 1963, Newell Robertson began curling, playing at both the national and international levels. She won the bronze at the 2004 World Senior Women's Curling Championship in Sweden.
Please welcome back Carolyn Hall.
In 1957, Anne arrived at Smith with a number of classmates from the Windsor School in Boston, a school known not only for its academic excellence, but also for its field hockey and lacrosse teams. At least 4 of her classmates from Windsor signed for field hockey for their fall sport in the era of required physical education. Because they were from Windsor, where 2 of my friends taught, they immediately went into the advanced section. Thus began my first contact with Anne, who came to Smith, I'm sorry, with the nickname of Pussy. She played center halfback, and of course she went on to take lacrosse as her spring sport. We had no intercollegiates then, but we did have a local field hockey association called Hampshire Field Hockey, which played on the Smith fields on weekends. Of course, Anne joined, and this was the start of her career as a weekend competitor in field hockey and lacrosse. At that time, I was also playing those 2 sports on weekends. For lacrosse, we had to join a group in Westchester County. That's down in New York. No cars for students then until 2nd semester senior year. So I was the driver to these practices. In the spring of 1960, Anne's junior year, the national tournament was held in Westchester. Now this tournament came just before exams. So we were going to leave after our last game on Saturday. As the day went on, one of the selectors asked me if we couldn't possibly stay until Sunday, as Anne was going to make the United States team as cover point. And on Sunday, the U.S. team would play the U.S. reserves. This was such an honor for a junior in college, I just had to make it happen. I don't remember how I did it. I think I called the dean of students to take care of the fact that Anne had signed out only until Saturday night. Somehow we did it. Anne made up her lost study time, and she passed her exams, so all was well. I always kept in contact with Anne, and I knew she and Phil were involved in curling. One of my golf partners in Albany was an avid curler. One time she told me she couldn't play on a particular weekend because she was going to the Cape to a glockenspiel. I suggested she might see a former student of mine, Anne Robertson. She did meet Anne and couldn't wait to tell me about the wonderful person Anne was and how special she was in the curling world. And now I turn the mic over to the special athlete and special person of whom Smith and Smith Athletics can be very proud.
This is a special time for me to be able to publicly thank this woman who is making her way back to her chair. When you are a student and you have a wonderful faculty member like Carol, you just don't have that feeling of being appreciative at the time. And I want to say that in arts, there are patrons of the arts. In athletics, I had my private patron, Carol Newhoff. Patrons empower you to go farther and challenge you to go to a higher level. And that she did. Now I will get back to that in a minute and explain exactly why. Sports was always a part of my life and a great joy to me. I love movement, I love being with teammates and creating something. And if you won, that was great too. But the point was being a part of it. I was very, very fortunate to be able to attend a private school. And in my day, it was the private schools who allowed women to try a variety of sports. Public schools, unfortunately, did not give that privilege to their students. So I was also blessed with wonderful timing and an excellent coach who, in my 7th grade year, came to the Windsor School in Boston, a woman named Maggie Boyd, who was the best coach, and it was recognized, wow, I'll go back. She was recognized as an outstanding coach of women's lacrosse throughout the world, given the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth, and just amazing. So she took a class of 7th graders and made 2 of us who ended up being on the US team. Just something. I also had another woman at that school, Maybe Fogg, who was an outstanding field hockey coach, and she is known, or was known in international circles, good friend of Miss Ainsworth's and many of the people in the sports world. When it came time for me to look at colleges, I wanted strong academics and strong athletics. So Smith was the actual and the wonderful match for me. There was no question about it. I was not disappointed at all. I was fortunate to find superb, dedicated people as coaches. Ann Delano was my lacrosse coach, and Carol Newhoff was my field hockey coach. Now this is why Carol is my patron. Though not a lacrosse player herself, at least at that time, she was coaching golf, so I kept seeing her up on the hill when we were down below playing lacrosse. She offered to drive Gal and Crocker from the class of 60 and me to Westchester, as we mentioned. Westchester had a club team, and if you made that club team, in those days, you went directly to the national tournament. I was lucky because there weren't a lot of people playing lacrosse, so you had that quick route to the nationals. And as Ms. Newhoff said, I was lucky to be selected to be on that U.S. team in my junior year in college. I did play 5 years before moving to California with my husband and 2 small children. When we moved back east about 4 years later, I resumed playing and became a coach of both field hockey and lacrosse, and then later refereed. I loved being out in the field with those girls. The feeling that comes from my coaching and refereeing and my joy for the sports is my thanks to my coaches and to the joy that I had throughout my sports career. Thank you.
In 1981, Lady Di married Prince Charles. Ronald Reagan became president, and we witnessed the first flight of the U.S. Space Shuttle Columbia. Raiders of the Lost Ark was the #1 movie in America, and the great Muhammad Ali retired with a career record of 55 wins and only 5 defeats. But he wasn't the only athlete tearing it up. Please watch our video.
Competed at the varsity level on the field hockey, lacrosse, squash, and rowing teams. Although Black began as a novice at Smith in both squash and rowing, she developed quickly as a varsity athlete. In squash, Black played in the #1 position her senior year. In rowing, she helped row the varsity 8 to 3 consecutive third-place finishes at the New England Regatta her sophomore through senior years.
She was a very wild person as a team member and as an assistant.
Black participated in the Olympic Developmental Crew Program after college and now works as Senior Managing Director, Chief Investment Officer, and Head of Global Fixed Income for TIAA Credit.
So I know everyone thinks that Carol's actually retired, but with all the work we're making her do tonight, I think you're back on staff, Carol. Here to present our next inductee. Please welcome back, Carol.
I promise this is the last time you'll hear from me tonight. But I'll be back for the next one. A few years ago, I was looking through a CREF report and saw a picture of Elizabeth Black, who looked just like Lisa Black, my squash player. Immediately, I took out my printed alumni register and found that Lisa was, in fact, Elizabeth. My squash player and crew member is now Senior Managing Director, Chief Investment Officer, and Head of Global Public Markets Portfolio Management for CREF. Wow. I knew she had great analytical skills because of the astute way in which she played squash. She was able to figure out all the angles in which the ball would rebound, as well as calculating her opponent's weaknesses. While at Smith, Lisa accomplished something that few, if any, athletes of today can accomplish. She was a beginner in squash and crew, yet she was varsity in both sports. As a team member, Lisa was dependable, always at practice, and she was a positive influence on a good team made up of many varied personalities. I was fortunate to have Lisa work with me doing research in the archives. As always, she was thorough and dependable. Lisa, not only do we honor you today for your success in athletics, but those of us in academia are indebted to you for your success in climbing the ladder of TIAA craft and contributing to our financial well-being. After Smith, Lisa earned an MBA at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. In an interview, she credits her grandfather with encouraging her interest in investing and business. In the same interview, she mentioned that during her second year in graduate school, TIAA came to the Ross School for interviews. The job description was exactly what she wanted, the opportunity to do fundamental research and become a portfolio manager. Lisa has achieved not only in athletics, but in a major personal goal in which a professional field where women really are able to achieve so much. To Lisa, my congratulations and admiration for your success.
I'd like to start by also congratulating my fellow inductees. It's really quite an honor to be here tonight, and congratulations to all. And I also would like to congratulate the selection committee. When I first received the email, I thought, really, me? Are you sure? Anything wrong there? But in all seriousness, it really is a true honor. And I just thought I'd spend just 2 minutes talking about the coaches that were so influential when I participated in the sports that Carol outlined. And of course, Carol was the first of those coaches when I played field hockey my freshman year. And then rather than playing basketball at 6'1", and I'm sure most, or maybe the coach at the time was hoping that I would do that, I decided to learn how to play squash. And Carol was my teacher, and I joined the team the next year and played for the rest of my time here at Smith. And so it was always really a pleasure to compete and really learn the game from Carol. So thank you for that. And then my sophomore year, I decided to try another sport that I had not been exposed to in high school or junior high, and that was rowing. And I had the great privilege of learning that sport under I think she was a two-time Olympian, Katherine correctly, but Jan Kalchikoff, who was at the time doing her graduate work at the University of UMass. So she coached the year 78 through 79, and then was followed by Chick Leonard, who I rode under for the last 2 years of my college career. And just a couple of quick stories about Chick. He, in my senior year in the spring, took me out of the varsity boat, which I was shocked with that news, and had been in the varsity boat all 3 years. And I thought, what on earth are you doing and why? And he said to me, Lisa, you haven't worked hard enough to earn a seat in the varsity 8. And he was right. And so I immediately went back to the weight room and spent more time on the water and did earn my seat back. The other influential comment he made to me towards the end of the season was, Lisa, you have he said, the physical potential of making a national team. And that was just a little bit of a push that I needed to give that a try. I didn't make a national team, but I had a lot of fun trying in that endeavor. And then last but not least, I want to thank my parents. They were so instrumental in introducing me and my brother and sister to a whole host of sports. I won't name them all because it would probably take another 5 minutes, but it was really inspirational for them to be that focused on, as I said, introducing me and my brother and sister to so many wonderful activities. I often say I learned more outside the classroom at Smith than I did inside the classroom. And that mainly was due to the friendships, the teammates that I competed with, and the successes we had both on and off the field. So thank you very much.
In 1983, the movie Flashdance made leg warmers honestly more popular than they ever should have been. Cabbage Patch dolls were the rage. The first mobile phones were introduced by Motorola, and there was someone putting Smith Crew on the map. Please take a look.
Athletic career as a National Division III Swimming Championship qualifier in the 400-meter high jump. Martin began rowing as a sophomore novice, but by her senior year, she was sitting 6th in the varsity lightweight 8 at 1-2 sprints. In 1985, Martin won bronze at the Rowing World Championships in Belgium. She won the gold medal in the lightweight 4 and 4th in the lightweight single at Worlds. In 1988, Ann Martin achieved a 9th place finish at the Seoul Olympic Games in the heavyweight quad. She held head of the Charles records in both lightweight and heavyweight events. Martin currently works as the Chief Investment Officer at Wesleyan University. She serves on the investment committee for Smith College, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation, and Choke Rosemary Hall.
Hi there. I'm delighted to be the person who gets to introduce Ann. My first year of coaching was Ann's senior year, and I showed up at Smith, and I didn't know any of the athletes. And the first time I met Ann, I think she was running around the fields by the field house, and she was so fast and so light on her feet. And she was always so gleeful about it and just happy to be there. She may even have been wearing a tutu because she sometimes showed up in odd outfits. But we had fun. She was always fun. But she worked really, really hard. She was still a novice because she had come as a swimmer and after she qualified for the NCAAs in the 400 IM, she told Kim Beerwood she was never going to swim that event again. She quit. And so luckily for the rowing world, she switched to rowing, and she rowed her novice year, and then she took her junior year abroad, as all Smithies do, and then when she showed up her senior year, she was pretty rough. We still had to teach her how to row, but with CB stroking the boat, we won the Eastern Sprints. And luckily for them, there was no national team rowing for lightweights at that point. But someone had this idea that they would put together a team and do a regular selection like every other team had, and they would go to Canada and just race the Canadians. And so CB and Ann were in that first boat. And then the next year, the International Federation said, okay, we'll let the lightweight women be exhibition at the World Championships. So she rowed the single there and won a bronze. And then they finally decided, well, I guess they really are real athletes. And the next year, they got to be full-fledged athletes at the World Championships, and she won another bronze. And then Andy Anderson, who was the coach, kind of the head coach for the lightweights, talked her back into sweep rowing the next year, and she won a gold medal. The first, CB won a gold in the double that year, and Ann won a gold in the 4. So Smith was well represented at that World Championships. She continued to row for 3 more years and made the heavyweight. Since there were no lightweights in the Olympics, she decided she would go for the heavyweights. And at her 140 pounds, she succeeded in beating out a lot of much larger women and competing in the Olympics in Seoul. The quote that I liked was, I talked to Andy Anderson, who was the coach. He said, she was one of the most intense athletes he ever coached. She pushed herself hard and rowed with fury and abandonment, winning all those medals. But the most fun thing is that if you were in a boat with Ann, you always had a good time. And I think, I've talked to Jenny, all these other international people that rode with her, and I think everybody always said it. Anne was always so intense, but always just so much fun to be with, and that's really an asset when you're on the team. So she retired after the Seoul Olympics, went to business school, but she's still involved in the sport. She had supported her husband, who coached at high school, college, international. She still competes in the head of the Charles now again. She rides her bike like crazy. She was also the head of the co-chair of the National Rowing Federation, raising money for the Rowing Association so that the athletes could go participate in all kinds of things. So the rowing world owes you a huge debt, Anne, and you're well qualified for the member of the Smith Hall of Fame. Also.
This is very cool. Okay, I have to put my thumbprint on this so I can see my notes. All right, thank you very much. First of all, thank you to my New Haven fan club that made the trip up here to see me be honored tonight. Thank you so much for making the trip. And thank you to my biggest fan of all, John Pescatore, to whom I've been married for 28 years. And also, congratulations to my fellow inductees, and it is just so much fun to be here tonight with two of my 83 classmates that I rode with, both C.B. Sands and Camille O'Brien, and also Lisa Black. We never rode in the same boat, but we were teammates my sophomore year and her senior year. So, and also what a delight to see Kim Beerworth, who was my first coach at Smith, and yes, I had a wonderful time being a wild bunch banana for that year, but I was definitely ready to move on to a new sport. So I did start rowing with Chick Leonard after I got very burned out my freshman year in swimming, and a woman down the hallway was a rower and introduced me to the coach, Chick Leonard. And this could never happen in today's world, but he had a double and he had a single, and he let me row these boats on the Connecticut River in the springtime. Yes, and that's how I learned to row, although my first strokes were in one of those old wooden wherries on Paradise Pond. So I did take my junior year away, and when I came back, we had this new coach, Kathy Keeler, and she was my personal Hall of Fame. We had no Hall of Fame, and so how did you know about what was really imaginable in your sport? Well, Kathy was that person for me. She had been on the 80 team that didn't go to the Olympics, I think a silver medal in 82. And that was really the first time I'd heard that there even was a national team. I didn't even know that was a possibility. And the springtime of my senior year, Kathy was the one that told me about this testing in Boston, and I ought to go, you'll be great. I had no idea what this was all about. You had to go do sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, and erg. And sure enough, my scores were excellent, and I got invited to this camp, and that sent me on my way. So I owe her a great debt of gratitude for pushing me in that direction. You know, in college, I would just say is a special time of life where possibilities are still expanding, and it's hard to know what those are, and hopefully this Hall of Fame movement does that for young athletes at Smith today. When they walk down the hall, hopefully they see what is the possibilities for them in the future. And as I said, I didn't have that, but I had Kathy, and if I can be part of what Kathy was to me when I was here in '83, if I can be part of that for the future Smith rowers or Smith athletes, I'm very honored. Thank you. In 1999, SpongeBob SquarePants premiered on TV just in time for Justin Bieber to turn 5 years old. Meanwhile, Barbie turned 40. Harry Potter books hit the scene, and there was a certain tennis player who is making a splash nationally as well. Take a look.
tennis team every year during her time as a Pioneer, achieving over 100 career wins and being awarded All-American status. She was named New England Women's and Men's Athletic Conference Rookie of the Year in 1995. In 1996, Morali and Laura Belderman, class of 1997, won the regional Rolex doubles tournament in the New England Women's Intercollegiate Tennis Tournament. Morali competed at the NCAA Championships in singles her sophomore through senior years, and by her senior year was ranked number 3 in the nation. She was awarded the East Region Arthur Ashe Sportsman Award. Morali played squash as a senior novice and was awarded the Wetzel Award for her high level of skill and sportsmanship.
Welcome Coach Chris Davis to present our next inductee.
I have a few props here, and I'd also like to ask for some help. So I would like to ask that Daisy Wynn and Carol Matsuzaki please come forward. Daisy Wynn was a teammate of Kanta who co-captained the team. She's now living in Chicago with her family and practicing medicine and still playing a very high level of tennis. And Carol Matsuzaki, who is here for a tournament actually and was able to join us, is currently coaching and is the winningest coach of tennis at MIT ever. Kanta volunteered with MIT Tennis and she worked with Carol for a very short time. So congratulations to all the inductees. That's the first and foremost. And I'm privileged to be able to welcome Kanta Morali into the Smith College Athletic Hall of Fame family. She is, without a doubt, one of the most talented tennis players ever to represent Smith intercollegiately. Humble and unassuming, she never sought fame on the tennis court, but instead stayed under the radar as long as possible until her dynamic tennis ability and her wins no longer allowed her to claim anonymity. Kanta was always had an aura about her as she entered the competitive tennis scene. Admired and respected by opponents, teammates, and coaches alike, Kanta represents the highest level of sportsmanship and fair play. And at this point, I'd like to make a correction in the information that you have in front of you. Kanta not only received the regional ITA Arthur Ashe Leadership Sportsmanship Award, but she was awarded the national title. And that's quite an honor. She was then and is now a special gifted athlete. Not only did she earn many, many tennis accolades, she also mastered a new sport in college squash. She earned the Wetzel Award given to a squash athlete who began playing during their college career and progressed to a high level and fine sportsmanship. Kanta served as captain of both the tennis and the squash teams and played at the #1 position in both and has not stopped competing. She is still playing high-level tennis, and I just learned that she won the Canadian National Championship in her age group, so she's #1 in Canada. Now I'd like to share some less-known facts about Kanta. First, if you've ever visited the ITT when the flags were all around the hall outside edge of it, Kanta could name every flag that was represented countries by the flags that were there, of players that were there, of students that were represented by those flags. She could name them all. Maybe that is why her memory is so good and she's never forgotten a tennis score. Jake, where are you, Jake? Jake, pay attention here. Kanta's records for push-ups while she was at Smith was 1. 0. Okay, well, I thought it was 1. But don't be fooled, because the power of her big forehand is intimidating, and the perfect timing of her strokes was never in question. And the last least known fact about Kanta, she was a ranked player in junior tennis in India before coming to Smith. She was my very best recruiting endeavor ever. I do have to give credit to an assistant. She will tell you that she is a bit stubborn, and she was a hard sell. She could have played for any division, but we finally got her. We had to use our very best sales approach ever in order to seal the deal, but we were able to recruit Kanta right out of an intermediate ESS tennis class here at Smith College. You heard it, Kanta was a walk-on. We convinced her to shake off the tennis cobwebs, stretch a bit, put on a Smith uniform, and play her first match in the same week. A side note, I'm fully convinced that Kanta and her senior partner that year were the best doubles team in the nation. Now, I am a bit biased, but Kanta and her partner, Heather Sanchez, had only one loss that entire season, and it was the first match that Kanta played for Smith. They lost a close 8-game pro set to the Williams team, who I believe went on to win the national championship in 1996. From that point on, it was her passion and enthusiasm that ignited us all, coaches and players. She gave and sacrificed for the team in unprecedented ways. After being declared the best singles and doubles player in the Northeast, Kanta turned down an invitation to the national ITA event in order to compete with her team the following week. She was and is a true team player. This brings me to a bit of unfinished business. Kanta, you've demonstrated success on the court in all ways possible, showing the highest level of sportsmanship at all times. You have represented Smith nobly, and we are proud of you. You ended your career ranked number 3 in the nation over a win over the national champion, and now you have a Canadian national championship. But you never took your NCAA trophy. So tonight, I'm going to represent that trophy to you and tell you that I want to thank you for all that you have given us, and congratulations to you.
Thank you all, and congratulations to all the inductees. I'm truly humbled to be here tonight. I just followed an Olympian. I mean, I can't ask for too much more in terms of where to be. Thank you to Bonnie, to Keith Sierra, to Kristen and the rest of the athletic department for this great event. It's truly been a pleasure to be back. I made sure I brought a couple of my friends, and we've gone around the day reminiscing about things that happened in various parts of the campus. So I think, like most of us here, I don't have to say that athletics is truly part of our identities, and it would always remain so. But I think for me, it had a much more instrumental purpose, if I was to put it bluntly in some ways. For me, it was a ticket to deep friendships and to a variety of social networks through my life, and it remains so. It was particularly so at Smith when I came here in 1995. I was a clueless 18-year-old, absolutely naive, coming directly from India. This was the pre-internet age, or the start of the internet age, and so in that sense I knew very little about college athletics. I had played as a junior in India. I had actually quit at 16 because I was completely burnt out. I was a mediocre junior, didn't quite enjoy junior tennis. But Smith gave me the passion to come back to tennis because for me it gave me a team environment which I felt far more comfortable in, which was far more meaningful for me in such an individual sport. And to me, I'm truly grateful for Smith for essentially resuscitating that part of my identity. And it remains an important part of my life. I just want to, I can't essentially put into words how much Smith, or how much Smith tennis has meant to me over the years, but I'm just truly, absolutely grateful for the honor and privilege. And as Chris suggested, to give you a sense of how clueless I was in 1995, I assumed everybody who played college athletics in the US was probably a phenomenal level, far higher than anything I had ever played. And so I joined an intermediate tennis class, so the story was very true. And I remember the instructor at that time basically saying, just wait another hour, the team will be here, I want to introduce you to the coach. So that was my fortuitous introduction into tennis, and life is all about so many chances and luck in so many ways, and I feel truly lucky. I just wanted to say a few personal thank yous. Chris, I don't know how to thank you enough. For those of you who don't know Chris, it wasn't just tennis skills and drills and things like that. Chris teaches you life lessons. There are certain sentences that Chris used to say that I still, occasionally find myself saying, and so I can't essentially tell you that how much it's meant to me and how much your help essentially meant to me. The tennis team was often blessed to have volunteer coaches on a regular basis. Chuck Johnson, who's at a table through my 4 years, essentially volunteered every day at our practices, drove us around. We used to do team dinners at his house. I also have a second coach, who isn't here, Tim Bacon, who is a truly outstanding squash coach, and to me represents the very best of what I think of Division III sport. He took those of us who've never hit a squash ball in our lives, essentially transformed us into squash players in a very short period of time, and he did it with an amazing sense of humor, and that was one of my, squash was as important by the end. And in terms of teaching me, yes, I still can't do a push-up, but in terms of teaching me what fitness truly was, I think I have to thank Tim tremendously. There are a variety of teammates I had to thank, and I essentially decided if I was coming back here today, I would bring two of my closest friends from Smith. So Daisy Wynn, who was on the team, and Ann Booker, who essentially was virtually on the team. She was our biggest fan, showed up at every match of ours. So thank you both for being my rocks, not just at Smith, but in life. And I actually thank you to your kids and your husbands for letting me steal you today as well. And finally, just as in many ways, the friendships I formed in tennis was not just with people at Smith, and I think Carol reflects that. I played against her in my first year at Smith while she was a senior at MIT. When I moved to Boston, Carol essentially kept my tennis going. She allowed me to hit with her players. I occasionally used to come and play sets against her. So it was a tremendously formative and important experience. I just want one last set of people I have to thank, which is my family. And I thought particularly I'd just narrate one anecdote that I think might resonate a little bit in terms of what we've been talking about here, of amazing women and their achievements. I think back today in many ways, I think back to my grandmother in particular. I'm from a city, Chennai, in the south of India, and my grandmother was essentially the first Indian woman to play tennis in the city. We actually have a picture of her playing tennis in a sari in the 1930s. So by the time I grew up, she had MS and was wheelchair bound, but nevertheless, in a sense, the fact that I even started tennis, I probably owe it to her. So thank you all. It's truly humbling and a true privilege to be here today. Very grateful for the honor. Thank you.
In 2006, Facebook opened to anyone who was over 13 years old and had a valid email address. American Idol was the most popular TV show, and Beyonce had the #1 song of the year called Irreplaceable, which might be a fitting word to describe our next inductee. Check it out.
Pap Sorenson is one of the most decorated athletes in the history of Smith volleyball. Sorenson was named the 2005 New England Women's and Men's Athletic Conference Athlete of the Year while leading the Pioneers to the NEWMAC title. She is a two-time All-American and a four-time New England Women's Volleyball Association honoree. Sorenson was the first Smith athlete to be named the American Volleyball Coaches Association New England Player of the Year. Sorenson was on the Seven Sisters All-Tournament team all 4 years and was named the tournament's most valuable player in 2004. Her senior season, Sorenson led the NUMAC in digs per game and was second in kills per game and hitting percentage, making her Smith's all-time record holder in kills and digs.
Back in 2002 when we were on our very first day of preseason and our first year at Smith. We were a bunch of new volleyball recruits from all over the country. We were nervous and we didn't really know what to expect, and so we all met together with the coaches in, I think, Hubbard House, and we met the upperclassmen, and all they could talk about was this new girl, Kate, and how we were so lucky we got her, and she was from the West Coast, which is a big deal in volleyball. And we were so lucky she chose Smith, and she was going to be so great, and we were so lucky. And I'm pretty sure I rolled my eyes. And I met Kate, and she was nice, and she was humble, and she was a little bit short. And the next day, we showed up to our very first day of practice in the gym, and they were right. She was so good. If any of you had the privilege of seeing her play, I certainly don't have to tell you how right they were about how good she was. I don't think I could, and I certainly don't have enough time to tell you everything that she achieved during our 4 years together. Over the course of those 4 years, there was no all-tournament team she didn't make, no award she didn't win, no game that she wasn't MVP of, NUMAC Player of the Year, All-New England, All-American, and she deserved every single one of them. But she didn't just deserve them, she earned them. She was incredibly hardworking, selfless on and off the court, and she made the rest of us, the rest of her teammates, better players. She was a great player, but an even better teammate. So since I'm up here, I'm going to tell you one thing about her as a teammate. Kate used to ride around campus on a bicycle, and like she played volleyball, she rode a bike, like all in, all the time, 110%. And over our 4 years on campus, she had at least 2 near-death experiences, one with a car and one with a squirrel. I think the squirrel jumped in the bike, but either way, I was like, Kate, you're our best hitter, don't get hurt. But she used to ride that bike down the hill to Ainsworth Gym and roll into the gym like minutes, seconds before Bonnie Mae would walk in. And I don't know how she always needed seconds before Bonnie Mae would walk in, but every time it gave me a heart attack. And I still sometimes get anxious when I'm like running late to things because I think of Kate coming screaming down the hill and the squirrel. But back to volleyball. Despite my initial hesitation, Kate and I became fast friends and eventually our senior year co-captains. It was that year that Kate led us to a conference title. We had a lot of talent and we even were hard. And Kate and I had together decided long ago that our senior year was going to be it, was going to be ours, and she made it happen. She was unstoppable. She made everyone around her better. I won't give you all of the boring volleyball details, but we played the best we ever had. We went in underdogs and came out NUMAC champions, and she was an obvious choice for Player of the Year. That season, our senior season, those 4 years encompassed some of my best memories from Smith, and it's in large part thanks to Kate. Her talent, her hard work, her dedication, her drive, and her friendship. I think speaking on behalf of all of our teammates, when we remember playing with Kate, we don't just remember how good she was, but how good of a person and a teammate she was, about how she was not only the best player, but the hardest worker. She never gave up on the ball, she never gave up on her teammates, she never stopped fighting, and consequently, she never stopped succeeding. I can't think of a better player or role model to represent our team, our college, or our sport as a whole. And it is my great honor to be here as she's inducted in the Hall of Fame. And I'm even more honored to call her my teammate, my friend, my pepper partner. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Kate Sorenson.
So hello everybody. I'd like to start off by congratulating all my fellow Hall of Fame inductees. Your athletic accomplishments are truly inspiring, and I'm honored to be sharing this night with you. There are several people I'd like to thank tonight. First off, my former coach in life and in volleyball, Bonnie May. Thank you for taking the time and thinking me worthy of such a nomination. A big thanks. Snafu's here. A big thanks to my friends and family who are here for your continued love and support. You guys are really the best. Especially my better half and super fan, Jen Snyder. I love you. And of course, my mom and dad who flew all the way from Washington State to be here. They were the ones that sat through countless tryouts, practices, games, tournaments, both club and high school since I was 12 years old. They woke me up at 5 a.m. to drive 1 to sometimes 3+ hours so I could play volleyball for 10 hours straight and thank Jim with painful fluorescent lighting. And as the proud parent of a 2-year-old myself, I can now see a glimpse of what that might be like and the endless dedication needed to support your child, and I had that in spades with you guys. But now, at least I can say it was all worth it because now I'm a Smith Hall of Famer. And lastly, volleyball is truly a team sport, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my teammates, many of which were incredible athletes in their own right, and I was especially lucky to have been paired with a wickedly talented setter all 4 years while at Smith College. You met her already, Lauren Perry. She's my partner in crime, and let's just say that when you have a good setter, it makes all the difference in the world. And Lauren, I owe you, because most of my stats are because of that girl right there. So thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. I'm truly blessed and honored to receive this distinguished award. Thank you so much.
Last one. Hold on to yourselves. In 1983, seatbelts became mandatory. Swatch released their first line of watches, and Sally Ride became the first American woman on board the Space Shuttle Challenger. But there are a few other women who were soaring to new heights as well.
Field hockey team goes down in Smith history as holding the program record for wins. They finished off their season with a 13 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie mark, and an overall record of 16 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. The team also set records for the most goals in the season with 66, and most consecutive wins, 13. After defeating Bates and Trinity at the Northeast Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Tournament, the Unicorns headed off to the NCAA Division III National Tournament. Although they were ranked 12th going into Nationals, Smith made it as far as the quarterfinals, where they lost to Denison 2-1.
Let's bring her up the closer, Bonnie May. Yeah.
it's actually my pleasure to present the 1983 field hockey team as they're being inducted into our Hall of Fame. This team set the record for wins in a season, finishing with a final record of 16-3-1. The Unicorns, yes, the Unicorns, placed second in the MAIAW State Championship and won the Northeast Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Championship. After winning NIAC, the team ranked 12th in the nation and earned a bid to the NCAAs. They were the first Smith College field hockey team to qualify. So, the team's going to nationals. Let me set the stage. It's November 1983. Jackie Bly, head coach, has just received notification that her team has been selected for NCAAs. There's no automatic qualifier. There's no selection show to say who's in the field. Actually, they were selected probably on an 8 or 9 hour conference call by the National Committee, where they discuss and dissect all the results for every team in the country. So it's actually pretty amazing. So after Jackie told her office mate, which is me, about NCAAs, she danced her 8-month pregnant body around the office a little bit and then started the phone tree, because there's no Google group, no Google chat, none of that, the phone tree, to tell her team that they've qualified for nationals. We were all really very excited about the fact that they were getting to go to Ohio. There was some concern about Jackie traveling because she's 8 months pregnant and the doctor wasn't really sure when she was due. So they sent our athletic trainer and our SID just in case. The day they were at Worcester and they played Worcester, it was gray and cold, and many of them talked about playing in the snow. But Worcester didn't prove to be much of a contest for them. They beat them 6-0. Then the next day, when they were up against Denison, we actually were much better statistically. But it's okay, Jack. But ended up losing 2-1. The team returned, probably a little disappointed. But they had a season full of memories that I'm sure have been rehashed over and over and over again over the last 2 days. The numbers and stats have been recorded, but those memories that are carried by each member of that NCAA-bound travel party are really the most important results of that memorable season. The excitement expressed by each of them as we contacted them to say that they were being inducted is a clear indication of that. Everyone experienced one of those magical seasons when everything seems to fall into place and players really get along and are really on the same page. They moved instinctively on the field and always knew where their teammates were. The players had a fierce competitive spirit and tremendous support for each other. There was a lot of hard work, coupled with camaraderie, laughter, and pure joy. Bethany Bridgham, who is here tonight, wrote it with her entourage, wrote an article for the Sapphire when they returned to campus. In it, she said, perhaps the winning was partly due to the fact that the team didn't lose any players for 2 years. Perhaps it was the way Jackie's low-pressure style of coaching worked so well for the team's intense level of competitiveness. And then Bethany said, and I quote, credit must go to Coach Bly, whose easygoing manner and inspirational chit-chats kept the team striving forward. Whatever the reason, it was magical and exciting and memorable. Hopefully this induction weekend has created new memories to add to the old. Congratulations to Coach Bly, Coach Richard Harrington, and the members of the 1983 field hockey team. Job well done. So, all of you forward to accept your award. So Bethany Bridget, Liz Ryan, Martha Kittredge-Rowley, Cleona O'Callahan, Liz Mitchell, Paula Prinz, Nancy Grimm, Wendy Larrabee Ginsburg, Vanessa Wolf, Beth Bruno Oberlander, Heather Wolf, Abigail Vernon. Coaches, Gabby Richard Harrington. Jackie's son Nick, who was the stowaway on the trip, who would like to present something to his mom.
Really glad I didn't follow Lisa Black, because now the microphone's way down here. Yeah, so this is a field hockey stick, and I played field hockey for 30 years, and for the life of me, I've never figured out why it only has one side. Thank you, Constance Appleby, who brought the game from England in the 1890s and actually graced the Smith campus with the game, brought over from England. Thank you, Connie. Yeah, and that's what they do. Anyway, so I got a bit of a story here, so I want you all to think back to the day. And I had to write it. See, there's no iPhone, being the eye doctor that I am. Anyway, well, here we are 34 years after the fall of 1983, far closer to our 60th birthday than we are to our 20th. And we, the team, are thrilled to be here to accept this recognition and induction. Kathy Clifford and I were the senior co-captains for this amazing 1983 team. Unfortunately, Kathy could not be here tonight, so I represent. Now, I'm going to do this story in a trilogy. So what do you sports fans call 3? A hat trick. We're going to start with a little bit of history, because when you're, well, we'll read the story first. The early 1980s were truly historic for women's sports, not only at Smith, but across the country. However, when you're a college kid, and now we have them, you don't pay much attention to anything or think beyond the moment. So the brief piece of history goes like this. Prior to 1980, the national governance for women's sports was the AIAW. Does anyone remember that? Oh, whoops. This was known as the Association for the Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, founded in 1971. The AIAW, at its pinnacle, had 1,000 member schools. By the early 1980s, the AIAW was in conflict with the NCAA, and shortly thereafter, following a one-year overlap in which both organizations staged women's championships, the AIAW discontinued operation, as most member schools jumped ship and continued their women's athletic programs under the governance of the NCAA. It would forever change women's collegiate sports, for better or for worse. But this was big stuff in women's sports, and we, the players, had no clue. On the story goes. So one practice in October, late October, when you're actually losing light at about 5 o'clock. We were still down on the field. Jackie huddled us in and said, in her Jackie way, which always was like this, hey guys, and she'd get really quiet. We have some exciting news. It's possible we could go to the NC2A tournament. But I don't want you to get too excited, and make sure you go to bed early for tomorrow's game. As a matter of fact, we got an email this morning, didn't we? We got an email this morning from Jackie, who still thinks she's our coach, that said, I hope you guys weren't up too late last night. Yeah, and that was like perfect timing for this speech. Anyway, so we were incredulous at the thought that we were going to go to the tournament. But so being the live-in-the-moment college kids, we were just over the top excited at the prospect. I mean, we had never heard of this before. But in retrospect, sadly, it was the end of the national governing organization for women's sports. The collapse of autonomy, perhaps. But hey, who cared? We were going to the NC2A championships. Right. And as we say, the rest is history. Part 2, the memories. So I just want you to think about all these little things I wrote down here. Van rides. Students who actually brought books to study. Yeah. An occasional upgrade to a fancy motor coach. Van trivia games. Jackie somehow always won. Smith box lunches. Late dinners at Davis Center. Dusty Miller desserts. Does anybody remember those? Oh yeah. That was like a supreme dessert at Davis. You remember that? No? Yeah. And then I always say, was McDonald's good back then? Okay. At home, a superbly mowed and coiffed grass field, thanks to Chet Saltis. Does anybody remember Chet, the lawn mowing guy? We had the best field. It was almost turf. The grass was so short and beautiful. A lighted field. Cold fall days where our hands were not able to hit the ball, hit the stick and hold the stick. Snow flurries. Our cozy 1940s field house. The long walk from the quad over the Lamont Bridge to the fields. Got smart, bought a bike. Yeah. Practices, incessant drills in those damn hills. Half-field scrimmages, goalie and corner practice, conditioning, foot fire with Wendy Larrabee. And Paula breaking the window in the field house with a 75-foot chip shot. This is no lie. You see where the goal, if you go down there today and look at where the goal cage is, the field was shifted over a little bit, more toward the field house, but that was from the top of the corner, over the goal cage, through the window in the field house. The 1983 season, win-win-win, beat Trinity, team is gelling, beat Amherst, beat Bates, NC2A tournament berth, flight to Ohio. That was pretty big back then. Jackie, 8 months pregnant. Nick, are you there somewhere? And this is Nick, as you've met. Denison, ugh. We outshot and outplayed the opponent. The snow, the slop. Martha goes down. They score goal number 2 with 9 minutes to go. A 2-1 heartbreaker. Tears and a silent bus ride to the airport. Do you remember that bus ride? Oh. And 3, the wrap up, because it's the end. No matter the outcome of that fated tournament, the 1983 season stands alone as a great one, with team chemistry, as Jackie says, coaches would die for. To that, I salute my teammates. So pioneers we were, even though we were unicorns at the time. I'm so glad they changed the name. Because there's been many pioneers here tonight. Is that not true? Yeah. So that's a more apropos name. One of the first Smith teams to go to the NC2A tournament. Bonnie beat us to it with the 1981 volleyball team, and there were some individual athletes that went as well. Inventing our own method of the stick stop. on corners with me stopping and Paula hitting, literally shaving seconds off that initial hit and often scoring. And most dramatically, the unintended invention of the chip shot through the fieldhouse window. Both of those things are now part of the modern game. So I would say pioneers we were. So on behalf of Martha, Heather, Nancy Graham, Liz Mitchell, Bethany, Wendy, Abby, Vanessa, Paula, Jeannie, Cleona, Beth, Nancy Mass, Kathy Linton in Japan, Jane in Australia, and the captains, Kathy Clifford and myself, we thank our tournament coach, Gabby Richards-Harrington. She's here tonight. Where is she? There she is, yes. And our female pillars of the athletic department, Carol Grills, Ruth Ann Mahoney, and Carol Newhoff. And most importantly, our funny, wonderful, endearing coach and friend, Jackie Bly. This great and unforgettable honor is ours to share and treasure forever. Go Smith.
It's late, but I'm just going to say a couple of things. First of all, well, they've all grown up. But they look great, don't they? This is a highlight to see all of them. And I have to tell you, some of them, like at least three of you traveled from overseas to be here. So that is, quite exciting. And I'm happy that I was a part of this team, of your team. Because you guys are the ones that made it happen. Thanks to the induction group, I don't know all of you, I think who were on that, but thank you very much for that. And I want to thank my family. Nick, you met, the one that was, that's why I looked kind of hefty in that picture. My youngest son, Dan, couldn't be here tonight. Andrew's wife is here, and my mother and sister and niece are here, and that's why I'm wearing a dress, because they told me I had to dress up, so I am. And Dave, my husband of many years, who stood by me on those sidelines and stands by me today, so I'm grateful. Words, you remember the big wins. I remember beating Trinity, you guys. I mean, Trinity, we never beat them. Do you remember that? It was huge. They were big, they were strong, they were kind of mean sometimes. But we beat them, and I think that was such a highlight. And then, on the other side, losing to Denison, that was tough. But I think the most important thing are the things that happen in between all of these matches. And this group made it happen. They had a special chemistry, kind of a unity. They could play with their eyes shut. They just knew, I swear they could play with their eyes shut. They just knew each other. They knew where they were on the field at all times. And those are things you can't teach always. Timing, silent communication, or subtle communication, but they had it, and it was just so exciting to see them develop. I choreographed a little bit. You play here, go here, just a little bit, but they are the ones that put it together and did it. I'm so proud of them, and I'm so proud of all the families that I got to meet today. It was so exciting to meet these families. And you know what? I'm proud of you today. And all the things, I mean, they're grown up now. They're getting old. and you know what? All right, enough. And they've done an awful lot. I caught up with them, and it was really great to catch up with them and to meet their families. I think that's half of this room is their family. So good for them. I want to tell you one last thing. I had to go to these childbirth classes.
have a baby, and I missed the one on C-section. Dave took really good notes, and it's a good thing, because finally, Nick was very late, and that's kind of what it came to. So, anyhow, Dave took good notes. So, last thing I'm going to say about these players, they loved the game, they loved each other, they played hard, and honestly, we had fun doing it. And I just loved being a part of it. So congrats to all of them. And thank you for Bonnie Mae kind of putting up with me in the office. It was office / equipment room. As young coaches, we were good colleagues. We compared stories, compared notes, and it was just a great time sharing that office with Bonnie / locker room, messy room, I don't know. That's where our uniforms were and everything else. Okay, I will stop now because I think that's enough. So I'm proud of all of you, and we're very excited to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. So thank you.
for the class of 2017. Thank everybody for coming tonight. We're very proud of everything you've accomplished and know that we are working very hard in the athletic department to live up to the standard of excellence that you have set for all of us. So thank you very much. If we get all the inductees up front for one last picture, that would be great. Thanks. Good night.